Travis Doyle didn't want to get away with murder. He wanted people to watch it. From the moment his videos started surfacing online, no one could tell whether they were watching a low-budget horror film or something terrifyingly real, but when viewers started recognizing real-life crime scene elements inside his so-called final project, a horrifying truth came to light. Travis wasn't just a filmmaker, he was a killer who turned his crimes into content, hiding confessions in plain sight and daring the world to press play. It began like most internet mysteries, quietly and without much attention. A small YouTube channel with fewer than 100 subscribers uploaded a strange video titled My Final Project. The thumbnail was dark and blurry, showing what looked like an old farmhouse at night. In the video, a masked man slowly walked through the house, holding a handheld camera. The footage was shaky, dimly lit, and eerily silent, except for the low hum of background noise and occasional narration. He spoke softly, pointing out old furniture, scratched doors, and strange stains on the walls. To most viewers it seemed like another amateur horror film, one of the many low-budget attempts scattered across the platform. Nothing about it screamed danger. Not at first, but something about the atmosphere was different. It wasn't overly dramatized. There were no jump scares or loud sound effects. Instead, the silence lingered uncomfortably. At one point, the man in the mask stood in front of a rusted metal cage in the basement, commenting on how history gets buried in plain sight. It seemed like a clever line, maybe even improvised. But for one viewer, a crime content creator named Ethan Cole, the image of the cage felt oddly familiar. Ethan had spent years reviewing missing person cases and unsolved crimes. That cage triggered a memory. He pulled up an old case from 2 years ago. Ina Woodridge, a 19-year-old who vanished after attending a modeling audition in a nearby city. One of the crime scene photos from a warehouse she was last seen in showed a nearly identical metal cage, down to the broken lock on the right side and a scorch mark on the floor next to it. Suddenly, this wasn't just a spooky video. It was a potential confession hidden in plain sight. Ethan made a short comparison. Video showing side-by-side images of the YouTube footage and the archived police photos. The resemblance was undeniable. His post caught fire online. Within days, the original video had over 500,000 views, and the police had taken notice. They began tracing the video's upload history. It was linked to a temporary email and an IP address from a rented apartment complex just outside Atlanta. From there, the investigation snowballed. The internet, once a haven for harmless horror, and fictional chills, had accidentally revealed something very real. As authorities dug deeper, they found more videos uploaded under different usernames, each showing different abandoned locations. Each one had strange items, a shoe, a necklace, or sometimes a faint cry in the background, things that, when taken alone, could be dismissed. But now, they formed a chilling puzzle. This wasn't just horror storytelling, it was something far more calculated. Someone had used the world's biggest video platform as a canvas, not for entertainment, but for confession. And the man behind the camera didn't seem interested in hiding. In fact, it looked like he wanted to be found. As investigators unraveled the origins of the chilling video, all digital breadcrumbs pointed toward a single name: Travis Doyle. At first glance, Travis seemed like a forgotten name in the background noise of the internet. His online presence was nearly non-existent, and what little remained was outdated. A few photos from college, a dormant Vimeo account, and a blog with only 3 posts from 2018 all about filmmaking. But beneath that surface was a different story. Travis had once been a promising film student at a respected arts university in Georgia. Professors described him as quiet but deeply focused. He rarely socialized but often stayed late in editing labs, obsessed with realism and the psychological power of visuals. His final semester project was reportedly rejected by faculty due to disturbing content and unclear ethical boundaries. Though no one had seen the full version, after that rejection, Travis withdrew from school and disappeared from the campus and his friends' lives. What seemed at the time like an emotional reaction to academic criticism was, in hindsight, the first sign of his descent into something darker. Public records showed Travis moved frequently after dropping out short-term rentals, motels, and, finally, a small unit in a crumbling apartment building near the edge of Atlanta. Neighbors recalled him as polite but reclusive. He carried equipment bags in and out late at night and kept curtains drawn at all hours, few residents thought. He was just another struggling artist trying to make independent films. No one suspected anything sinister. Then came the modeling offers. Digging through online classified ads, deleted social media posts, investigators discovered Travis had been advertising himself as a freelance videographer under various aliases. He promised low-cost photography and film reels for aspiring models, actors, and musicians. His tone was always professional, and he provided fake references when asked. The messages were persuasive, but never aggressive. That was how he found Mia Turner. Mia was 22 years old, working part-time as a waitress and trying to break into local modeling. She answered one of Travis's ads, believing it could be her big break. Friends said she was nervous but excited for the shoot. She sent them her location, a converted warehouse listed as the shoot venue. That was the last time anyone heard from her. Months later, her phone was found abandoned in a bus station locker. Her missing person report received some local attention, but no major leads surfaced. It wasn't until Ethan Cole connected the video's cage to Mia's case that authorities began to see the horrifying pattern. Travis hadn't been making art. He had been hunting. Using his film background as a cover, he targeted those who wanted to be seen, drawing them in with the promise of opportunity. What followed wasn't a career launch. It was a carefully staged performance with only one viewer. In mind, himself. His obsession with control, image, and narrative had turned deadly. And now, the internet had unknowingly become his stage. The storage unit looked unremarkable from the outside, just another metal door in a row of dozens. Inside, though, it told a different story. When police finally gained access to Travis Doyle's rented unit, they didn't expect to uncover what felt like a crime scene dressed as a film set. The space was dim, with thick black curtains hanging from the walls, muting any sound. Tripods and lights were arranged with professional care, wires coiled on the floor like veins. At first, it looked like a struggling artist's studio until they stepped behind the curtain. There, in the darkest part of the room, they found a deep chest freezer. It was chained shut, but the padlock was weak. When opened, the chilling truth was confirmed. Inside were the remains of Mia Turner. The autopsy later revealed she had died from a combination of trauma and prolonged confinement. She had likely been held captive for days, maybe longer, before she was killed. Her body had been carefully preserved, wrapped in black plastic and cloth. Near the freezer, detectives found a small table with a camera, tripod, and a notepad filled with timestamps, shot lists, and chilling phrases like close-up on fear and repeat dialogue if unclear. It wasn't just evidence of murder. It was evidence of production. Every detail in the storage unit was designed not only for filming but for control. Soundproofing foam covered the ceiling. The lighting rigs were programmed to create different moods, cold and clinical or warm and artificial. Fake props were mixed with real ones. Blood stains on a tarp nearby turned out to be real. A mannequin slumped in the corner was dressed in the exact outfit Mia was last seen wearing. The lines between fiction and reality were gone. In the back corner, police found shelves of labeled hard drives. Each drive had a name, a date, and a theme. Isolation. First contact. The basement scene. They were cataloged like episodes of a series. Travis hadn't just filmed the events, he had organized them, structured them, and likely planned how each one would be presented to the world. It was filmmaking turned pathological. Even more disturbing was the discovery of multiple ID cards, phones and belongings from other missing individuals. Authorities began to fear that Mia might not have been the only victim. Some of the drives contained footage from abandoned locations, very similar to the style of my final project. But in raw, unedited versions, faint voices could be heard, crying, pleading, then silence. In one clip, the camera focused for nearly a full minute on a pair of bloody shoes while eerie ambient music played faintly in the background. There was no screaming, just atmosphere. What Travis had built was not a studio. It was a personal horror archive, a place where real pain was captured, manipulated, and rehearsed. It wasn't about fame or money. It was about power. It wasn't. Interested in shocking viewers with gore, he wanted to control the narrative, to twist reality into something he alone could understand. And in that pursuit, he crossed a line most people can't even imagine. On a password-protected folder labeled "Upload when I'm gone," investigators found what could only be described as a manifesto disguised as a documentary. It was Travis Doyle's final project in the most twisted sense of the word of full length. Video pieced together, with professional care, narrated in his own voice, and edited like a festival submission. It began with a black screen and a simple phrase typed in white: "This is not fiction." From there, the story unfolded with cold precision. Travis walked the viewer through his descent. Not with regret or panic, but with disturbing calm. He explained how he had always believed true horror wasn't about what people saw, but what they ignored. He said the idea came to him while sitting in a crowded film class, watching his classmates cheer for slasher films and ghost stories. No one cared that the characters on screen were suffering. As long as it was wrapped in fiction, people felt safe. That's when he decided to blur that line. The footage switched between scenes of abandoned locations, masked reenactments, and voiceovers detailing how he chose his victims. He spoke of isolation, vulnerability, and trust. He described how easy it was to find people willing to meet a stranger with a camera. He never showed the actual acts of violence, but what he left in the footage was somehow worth the lead-up. The uncertainty, the sounds, the pauses between fear and fate. He explained how he edited the videos to create doubt. Was it real, or just really convincing? That confusion was what he wanted. Travis believed that if the world couldn't tell the difference, they would never stop him. And for a time, they didn't. He uploaded test videos to forums and small channels, hiding in plain sight. Some were praised for their atmosphere. Others were ignored. But all were real. Every comment, every like, became part of what he called the performance. At the center of the documentary was a segment titled "Legacy." In it, Travis outlined his goal: to become a myth, not a killer, but a story people told without knowing what was true. He spoke about horror icons and how their fictional legends lived on for decades. He wanted the same fate not behind bars, but in the form of endless reposts, reaction videos, and speculation. He wanted to be studied, discussed, feared, but never fully understood. The documentary ended with a static screen, then his voice returned for one final line, spoken softly. If they believe it's fake, they'll watch it twice. It was the most haunting part of the entire video, not because of what he said, but because of what it meant. He knew people would keep watching, even after the truth was known. When authorities reviewed the footage, they were stunned by the clarity of his planning. He had designed his entire digital footprint to vanish upon his arrest. Scheduled uploads, auto-deleting backups. Slow-drip horror story meant to unfold whether he was free or not. He never intended to escape justice. His escape was in the viewing. Travis Doyle was arrested without resistance. Authorities found him in a public library, sitting quietly in the media room, watching YouTube. On his screen was a reaction video, someone analyzing his now infamous "My final project." He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was observing, almost like a director watching an audience respond to his work. As officers led him away, library patrons reported that he looked more curious than afraid, as though he had been waiting to see how it all would end. His trial became one of the most widely followed true crime cases in the country. Prosecutors presented the raw footage, the edited videos, and the full documentary found on his hard drive. The jury watched scenes that were crafted like horror movies, but built from real pain. Each detail was chilling: his narration, his calculated camera angles, his voice-over scripts, but most horrifying of all was the lack of emotion. Every choice had been deliberate. There were no outbursts, no signs of remorse, just a pattern of cold, creative manipulation. Mia Turner's family sat through the entire trial, forced to watch, their daughter's final moments stylized as content. Other families soon came forward, recognizing missing belongings from the evidence photos: bracelets, shoes, even tattoos, barely visible in the background of some videos. It became clear that Mia hadn't been the first. Travis Doyle had a longer history than anyone imagined. He had simply hidden it well, disguising his crimes as art, knowing that most people would never question what looked like fiction. In the courtroom, he remained silent, even as the evidence mounted. Psychiatrists evaluated him and reported a unique blend of narcissism and detachments, someone who didn't kill out of impulse or rage, but because he saw people as roles to be cast and discarded. In his mind, he wasn't just documenting horror, he was directing it. The victims weren't people, they were performances. The verdict came quickly, guilty on all counts. Travis was sentenced to life without parole. But the consequences of his actions didn't end there. Despite efforts to remove his content, mirror uploads continued to appear across forums, dark websites, and underground video archives. Some viewers, knowing the truth, still watched out of curiosity. Others believed the videos were hoaxes, too well edited to be real. The uncertainty Travis had engineered lived on, feeding a cycle of fascination and disbelief. The case sparked a wider conversation about how horror and reality can overlap in dangerous ways. Experts warned that platforms built for entertainment could be exploited by those who understood how to weaponize storytelling. Travis Doyle didn't just hurt people, he used technology, media, and psychology to turn suffering into spectacle. He blurred the line between audience and accomplice. To this day, his videos surface and disappear like digital ghosts. Some say he achieved what he wanted, not freedom, but infamy. Not fame in the traditional sense, but something darker. He became a legend, not in spite of his crimes, but because of how he hid them right, where everyone could see.